The sky hung heavy with dark clouds as the small town gathered to pay their final respects. The steady patter of rain matched the solemn mood of the day, a funeral for Officer Daniel Hayes, a man who had served his community with unwavering courage until his life was tragically cut short in the line of duty. Police cars with flashing lights lined the streets, their sirens muted but their presence commanding, a final salute to one of their own. Among the crowd stood Emily Hayes, a little girl no older than 9. Her small frame was dwarfed by the sea of uniforms and umbrellas, but her eyes shone with a mixture of sorrow and strength beyond her years. Clutched tightly in her tiny hands was a framed photograph, her father in full police uniform, smiling proudly with his loyal companion Max. The German shepherd sat by Daniel's side in the photo, alert and proud, his dark eyes reflecting the bond they shared. It was this dog who had been Daniel's partner through years of service, a silent guardian and friend. Max was present at the funeral, too. The dog sat on the cold stone steps of the chapel, his strong body motionless except for the occasional lift of his ears when someone passed. His eyes never left the casket draped in the American flag, as if he understood the weight of the moment. The officers who had worked alongside Daniel whispered softly, some wiping away tears, others standing stoic in respect. But Max, loyal to the very end, refused to leave his handler's side. Emily's mother knelt beside her daughter, brushing damp strands of hair from her face. "He was a hero of sweetheart," she whispered gently. Emily nodded silently, though her heart felt shattered. The ache in her chest was new and raw, like a heavy stone pressing down where her laughter once lived. She didn't understand all the grown-up words around her, fallen in the line of duty, sacrifice, honor. But she knew one thing clearly: her father was gone, and her world had changed forever. The chaplain began to speak, his voice steady and kind. He spoke of bravery, of selflessness, and the deep love a man can have for his community. Emily's eyes drifted back to Max. The dog's head was lowered now, as if mourning too. She felt a sudden rush of emotion, a fierce protectiveness stirring inside her. Max was all she had left of her father, and she wasn't ready to say goodbye. After the service ended, Emily approached the casket one last time. She reached out with trembling fingers to touch the polished wood, then pressed the photograph of her father and Max against it. A soft sob escaped her lips, drawing her mother closer. "I miss him," Emily whispered, voice breaking. "Will Max be okay?" Her mother pulled her into a hug. "We'll make sure Max is taken care of, honey," she said, though her own eyes betrayed a hint of uncertainty. They both knew the reality wasn't so simple. Police dogs like Max didn't just come home with families. They often had duties and new assignments, or were retired and rehomed. As the rain eased and the crowd began to disperse, Emily stayed behind, her gaze locked on Max. The dog rose slowly and trotted over to her, nudging her hand gently with his cold nose. She smiled faintly, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I promise I'll take care of you, Max," she whispered, just like Dad would. In that moment, beneath the gray sky and falling rain, a quiet bond formed, one that neither death nor distance could break. Emily's journey had only just begun, and the story of a little girl, her father's dog, and a love that refused to fade was about to unfold in ways no one could have imagined. The house felt like a ghost of itself. Where once there had been laughter and warmth, now silence stretched from room to room like a thick fog. Emily wandered through the halls, her small feet making soft echoes on the hardwood floors. Every corner held a memory: her father's worn leather jacket hanging by the door, his polished boots lined up neatly beneath, the faint scent of his aftershaves still lingering in the air. She stopped in the living room, where a fire usually crackled, and sat on the worn couch. Her hands trembled as she clutched the framed photo of her dad and Max. The dog had always been part of their family, a constant presence in the background of birthday parties, family dinners, and lazy afternoons. But now Max was gone too. The house felt emptier than ever. Emily's mother entered the room quietly, carrying a basket of laundry. She sat down beside Emily, hesitating before speaking. "Sweetheart, I know you miss Dad. We both do." Her voice cracked just a little. "But Max, he can't stay here. The police department has to decide where he'll go. Emily's eyes grew wide, and she shook her head. No, she whispered, almost pleading. Max belongs with us. He belonged to Dad. And if Dad's not here, then Max has to be. Her voice was firm despite the tears that welled up. Her mother sighed, brushing a stray hair from Emily's forehead. I know you love him, but Max isn't just a dog. He's a police dog, trained to work with the force. When a handler retires or passes away, the dogs usually get reassigned or retired in a way that keeps them safe and cared for. She paused, searching for the right words. Sometimes retired dogs go to new homes through an official process. It's complicated. Emily swallowed hard, her heart aching. She felt as if the last thread tying her to her father was slipping away. But can't we just ask to keep him? She said softly. Her mother hesitated. We can try, but it's not up to us alone. The police department has rules, and there are other people who want Max too. She hugged Emily tightly, feeling the desperate hope radiating from her daughter. I promise we'll do everything we can. Emily didn't sleep well that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Max. The memories came flooding back, the way Max's ears perked up when her dad came home, how he would rest his head on Daniel's knee after a long day, the way he'd excitedly run to greet Emily at the door after school. Max wasn't just a dog. He was family. In the days that followed, Emily found herself drawn to the window overlooking the street, hoping to catch a glimpse of Max on his usual walk with the officers. Sometimes she saw him trotting past, tail high but eyes scanning, always alert. The sight brought both comfort and pain. Max was alive, but so far away. One afternoon, Emily's mother sat down beside her with a letter from the police department. The letter explained that Max would be officially retired from active duty and put up for auction, where bids would be accepted to determine who would become his new owner. The thought of an auction made Emily's chest tighten. The idea of strangers bidding on Max like a prize was almost too much to bear. But Emily looked up at her mother, determination flickering in her eyes. What if I try to get him back? What if I bid on him? Her mother blinked in surprise. You want to bid on Max? Emily nodded. Yes, I know I'm just a kid, but Max is all I have left of Dad. I want him to come home with me. Her mother searched her daughter's face and saw something she hadn't expected, an unshakable resolve born from grief and love. It's a long shot, she said gently, but if you want to try, I'll help you. Emily smiled, a spark of hope igniting in her heart for the first time in weeks. She didn't know how she'd raise the money, or if she could outbid grown adults, but she knew this much. Max was worth fighting for. And so began a quiet plan, born from a little girl's love and a family's will to keep the last piece of a hero close. The news spread quickly through the small town. Max, the police dog who had stood faithfully by Officer Daniel Hayes, was being retired and put up for auction. It was an official announcement from the police department, but to Emily, it sounded like a thunderclap. The word auction echoed in her mind, heavy and cold. The idea that Max could be sold to the highest bidder, someone she didn't know, someone who wasn't her family, filled her with a quiet fire. Emily sat at the kitchen table with her mother that evening, listening as her uncle explained what auctions were. Max could go to a security company or a rich collector, maybe even a trainer who wants to use him for shows. He said, shaking his head. Those bids can get pretty high. Emily's fists clenched around her cup of hot chocolate. She felt small against the vastness of the world. How could a little girl compete with wealthy adults? But the thought of losing Max broke her heart. I want to bid on Max, Emily said suddenly, her voice steady but soft. Her mother looked surprised, then worried. Emily, honey, it's not that simple. You're just a kid. You don't have the money, and there will be lots of people who want him. Emily met her mother's eyes. I don't have much money now, she admitted, but I can save. I can do chores. I can sell lemonade. I want to try. Her mother's heart swelled with both pride and sorrow. Okay, she said quietly. We'll figure it out together. Over the next few days, Emily became a whirlwind of determination. She set up a small lemonade stand on the corner of their street, despite the chilly spring weather. Her sign was hand-drawn, a little crypt but full of hope. Help Emily bring Max home. She squeezed lemons, stirred the sweet mixture, and handed out cups with a shy smile. At first, only a few neighbors stopped, but as the story began to spread, more people came. Old Mrs. Carter gave Emily a $5 bill and told her to keep the change. Mr. Lopez from the bakery brought warm cookies to sell alongside the lemonade. Even the mailman offered a handful of coins. Emily worked tirelessly, waking early and staying late, counting every penny with care. She sold more lemonade, helped with yard work, and even collected bottles from recycling bins to turn in for cash. Every night, she placed her savings carefully in a small tin box under her bed, watching the pile grow. One afternoon, her teacher asked about her determination. Emily shared the story of her dad and Max and how she wanted to keep them together. Word spread through the school, then the neighborhood, then the entire town. Local reporters caught wind of Emily's campaign, intrigued by the little girl fighting for her father's dog. Before long, strangers began leaving envelopes of money on her doorstep, along with notes of encouragement. "You're brave, Emily. Keep fighting. Max belongs with you." The community rallied around her, their kindness a powerful force. Despite the hope, doubts sometimes crept in. At night, Emily lay awake wondering if it was enough. Would her small savings really be enough to outbid the big companies? Would Max end up with someone who didn't love him like she did? Her mother found her once, eyes heavy with worry. "It's okay to be scared," she said, "but you're showing a strength your father would be proud of." Emily nodded, clutching the small badge her father had given her, the same one she wore around her neck. She didn't know how the auction would end, but she knew one thing for certain: she wasn't going to give up. The auction date was set, a week away, and with each passing day, the excitement and nerves grew. Emily's friends helped spread the word. Posters went up around town. Her story was everywhere. On the morning of the auction, Emily's mother sat beside her and handed her an envelope. Inside was every penny Emily had saved, carefully counted. "This is everything you have," her mother said softly. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." Emily looked at the envelope, her heart pounding. This was her chance to fight back, to hold on to the last piece of her father's legacy. As they walked toward the police station where the auction would be held, Emily felt a mixture of fear and hope swirling inside her. The room she was about to enter was full of strangers, grown-ups who could outbid her easily. But Emily carried something stronger than money: love, courage, and a promise to her father. And with Max's loyal eyes watching over her for memory, she was ready to face whatever came next. The morning sun peeked through the clouds as Emily set up her lemonade stand once more. But this time, it wasn't just a simple table with a pitcher and cups. It was a symbol of hope, determination, and a little girl's fierce love for her father and his dog. The sign she had made, in bright crayon colors, read, "Help Emily bring Max home." It was simple, but it spoke volumes. Emily squeezed lemons with her small hands, trying to make each cup just right. She knew that every dollar counted. Around her, the neighborhood slowly came alive. Familiar faces stopped by, drawn not just by thirst, but by the story they had heard on the news. The local reporter's story about the little girl bidding on her father's police dog had touched hearts far beyond their quiet town. Mrs. Carter, the elderly woman from down the street, was the first to arrive. She handed Emily a warm smile and a folded bill. "Keep going, dear. You're doing something brave." Emily's face lit up with gratitude, and she poured Mrs. Carter a fresh cup. As the day stretched on, more neighbors joined in. Mr. Lopez from the bakery brought freshly baked cookies to sell alongside the lemonade, turning Emily's small stand into a mini community event. Children from school gathered, their pockets jingling with coins they had saved, eager to help in any way they could. Emily's mother watched quietly from a nearby bench, proud and a little overwhelmed. She saw the hope blossoming in her daughter's eyes, the same hope that had been dimmed by loss but was now rekindled through action. Word spread beyond their street. Local businesses donated supplies, and strangers left envelopes of money at the stand, often with notes of encouragement. "Keep fighting, Emily. Your courage inspires us all, and Max belongs with you." Each note was a small flame of warmth in the cold shadow of grief. The police officers who had worked with Daniel stopped by as well, some lingering to share stories about him and Max. "Your dad was a good man," said Officer Ramirez, kneeling beside Emily. "And Max was more than just a partner to him. He was family." Emily listened intently, feeling closer to her father through their words. That evening, as Emily counted the day's earnings, she felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The pile of coins and bills in her tin box was growing. It wasn't just money, it was hope made tangible, proof that her community believed in her. But even amid the support, doubt sometimes crept in. At night, Emily lay awake wondering if it would be enough. Could a little girl really outbid wealthy companies? Could she really bring Max home? The local news caught wind of her campaign and soon aired a story about Emily's efforts. Cameras followed her as she set up her stand, interviewed neighbors, and shared her dream. The story went viral online, and donations started arriving from strangers in faraway places who had been touched by her bravery. Emily's school held a fundraiser too, with students and teachers pitching in. The principal announced a special assembly to honor Emily's courage, turning her quiet campaign into a town-wide movement. Each day, Emily grew stronger, not just because of the money, but because of the love and support that surrounded her. Her mother watched with tears in her eyes, knowing this was more than just a battle for a dog. It was a journey of healing for a family shattered by loss. As the auction day approached, the town buzzed with anticipation. Emily had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest voices can make a difference when backed by love. And through it all, Max remained the quiet hero of the story, the dog who had stood faithfully beside a fallen officer and was about to become the heart of a little girl's fight to keep her father's memory alive. The morning of the auction arrived with the crispness in the air, a sharp contrast to the warm buzz of hope that had grown over the past weeks. Emily stood at the edge of the police station's parking lot, clutching the small envelope that held all the money she had painstakingly saved and received from kind strangers. Her mother stood beside her, offering a quiet squeeze of reassurance. The building looked much like any other government office, but today it held a weight of its own. Inside, a crowd was gathering, officers in uniform, curious neighbors, reporters with cameras, and a handful of serious bidders. The room was filled with a mix of anticipation, respect, and tension. Max lay quietly at the feet of Officer Daniels, the man assigned to oversee the auction. His dark eyes scanned the room, alert yet calm, as if sensing the significance of the moment. For Emily, seeing Max there, close but not yet hers, was almost unbearable. Emily's heart pounded as she took her seat in the small group of bidders. She was the youngest by far, and her thin arms trembled slightly as she placed her envelope on the table. Around her, grown adults exchanged polite nods, some with skeptical glances. But Emily refused to let their doubts shake her. The auction began with other items and equipment, old radios, helmets, gear no longer in use. Then, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The auctioneer's voice rang out clear and firm. And now, up for bid, Max, the retired police dog who served with honor alongside the late Officer Daniel Hayes. A hush fell over the room. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The auctioneer explained Max's history, his training, and the bond he shared with Daniel. As the description ended, the bidding opened. At first, a few low bids came in. Emily raised her hand nervously, offering the amount she had saved. The auctioneer nodded and noted her bid on the board. Then a man in a dark suit entered a higher number. Emily's heart sank, but she didn't give up. She clenched her fists and looked straight ahead. The bidding escalated quickly. The man, clearly a wealthy buyer, kept raising the stakes. Emily's mother leaned over and whispered, "You're doing great, honey." Emily swallowed hard and pushed herself to raise the bid again. Each time she did, she felt like she was carrying not just her own hopes, but those of the entire community who had rallied behind her. Suddenly, a surprising voice cut through the room. It was Officer Ramirez stepping forward with a firm tone. "I'd like to place a bid for Max on behalf of the police department's retired dog program." The room murmured in approval. Ramirez's bid was higher than the others. Emily's stomach twisted, but she didn't lose hope. She glanced down at her envelope, her life savings, and made one last bid. Silence fell. The auctioneer's eyes flicked between Emily and the others. Finally, he spoke, going once, going twice. "Sold to Emily Hayes." The room erupted into applause. Emily's breath hitched, tears streaming down her cheeks. She couldn't believe it. After all the doubt, the hard work, and the waiting, Max was hers. Officer Daniels approached, leading Max over. The dog stood quietly as Emily knelt and wrapped her arms around him. Max's head rested gently against her shoulder, as if he knew he was finally home. The room watched in awe as the little girl and the loyal dog reunited. For Emily, it wasn't just a victory in an auction. It was a reclaiming of her father's love, a promise kept. Outside, the rain that had threatened all day held off, and a pale sun broke through the clouds. The community gathered, their cheers echoing down the street. Emily's mother pulled her into a warm embrace. "You did it, Emily. You brought Max home." And with that, a chapter of loss and uncertainty closed, making way for one of hope, healing, and the enduring bond between a girl and the dog who had stood by her father's side. The weeks following the auction felt like a dream to Emily. Max was finally home. The dog that had been a symbol of her father's courage and dedication was now by her side every day. But with this new beginning came new challenges, both for Emily and for Max. Max was a trained police dog, accustomed to a life of discipline, work, and commands from his handler. At first, he was cautious around Emily. His body language was respectful but reserved. He wasn't sure what to make of this small girl who suddenly wanted to take his place beside her father. Emily understood. She knew Max needed time to adjust, time to understand that she wasn't a replacement for Daniel, but a new friend and companion who would love him and care for him. Every morning, Emily woke early and took Max for long walks through the neighborhood. She talked to him softly, telling stories about her father, about the adventures they had shared, and the love that bound them all. Max listened quietly, his tail occasionally wagging, eyes brightening with recognition. They began training together, guided by Officer Ramirez, who volunteered to help Emily learn how to care for Max. Ramirez taught her how to use commands, how to read Max's signals, and how to build a relationship based on trust and respect. Slowly but surely, Max started to open up. Emily found joy in the small victories, a wagging tail when she returned home, Max's eager response to her commands, the way he curled up at her feet during story time. Each moment was a thread weaving them closer together. At school, Emily felt stronger too. The support she had received from her community had given her confidence, and her story had inspired her classmates. Some even asked to meet Max, who quickly became a beloved figure at school events and charity fundraisers. But the journey wasn't without its hard days. There were times when Max's training instincts kicked in. He would bark at loud noises or become restless during thunderstorms. Emily learned patience and understanding, recognizing that Max was still healing from the loss of his handler, just as she was. One afternoon, as Emily and Max practiced in the park, an older man approached. He introduced himself as Mr. Carter, a retired police officer who had known Daniel well. "Your father was a good man," Mr. Carter said warmly. He and Max were a team like no other. Emily smiled shyly. "Max means everything to me now. I want to make sure he's happy and safe." Mr. Carter nodded approvingly. "You're doing a fine job, young lady. It's not easy raising a police dog, but you got the heart for it." That moment stayed with Emily, proof that she was not alone. The community that had rallied around her before was still there, offering guidance and friendship. At home, Emily's mother watched the transformation with a mixture of relief and pride. The house was no longer filled with silence, but with the sounds of laughter, footsteps, and the soft patting of Max's paws. One evening, Emily sat at the dinner table, a scrapbook open before her. It was filled with photos, newspaper clippings, and letters, reminders of the journey she had taken to bring Max home. She carefully added a new picture of her and Max, smiling under the bright sun of the park. "Dad would be proud," Emily whispered, tracing the photo with her finger. Her mother smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "We all are, sweetheart." In the quiet moments, Emily understood that the loss of her father was a wound that would never fully heal. But through Max, she found a way to keep his spirit alive, a companion who carried the strength, loyalty, and love that her father had embodied. Together, Emily and Max faced each new day, writing a story of hope, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog, a story that would inspire everyone who heard it for years to come. Months passed, and Emily and Max grew inseparable. Their bond deepened beyond the simple connection of owner and pet. It became a partnership filled with love, trust, and mutual healing. Max seemed to understand that Emily was the bridge to the man he had lost, and Emily found comfort in Max's quiet presence during moments of sadness. Emily's life began to feel fuller. The shadows of grief remained, but they were softened by the light of daily routines and small joys. Max's loyalty reminded her of her father's strength, and every day they spent together was a tribute to Daniel's memory. School became easier too. Emily's story had made her something of a local hero, and her classmates treated her with newfound respect and kindness. She no longer felt isolated by her loss. Instead, she was surrounded by friends who wanted to help in any way they could. One chilly autumn afternoon, Emily's teacher announced a school fundraiser for the local animal shelter. Inspired, Emily suggested including Max in the event, turning it into a celebration of service dogs and their vital role in the community. The school gym buzzed with excitement as families and neighbors gathered for the event. Max, dressed in his old police vest, became the star of the day. He performed simple obedience routines and even demonstrated some of his trained skills under Emily's guidance. As Emily spoke to the crowd about Max, her voice strong but warm, she felt a surge of pride. "Max taught me about courage, loyalty, and hope," she said. "He's more than a dog, he's family, and I'm so grateful to have him by my side." The applause was thunderous. For Emily, it was more than just recognition. It was a healing balm for a heart that had once felt broken beyond repair. Despite the happy moments, Emily knew the journey was far from over. Some nights, grief would return like a wave, sudden and overwhelming. She missed her father fiercely, the sound of his voice, his warm hugs, the way he made the world feel safe. Max seemed to sense those moments. He would nuzzle Emily gently or rest his head on her lap, offering silent comfort. Emily would run her fingers through his fur and whisper stories about her dad, finding solace in their shared love. Her mother noticed the change too. One evening, she sat down with Emily and said, "You're growing into someone amazing, Emily. Your dad would be so proud of the strength you've shown." Emily smiled, the tears glistening in her eyes. "I just wish she could see it." Her mother hugged her tightly. "He does, in every way that matters." Together, they began planning a small memorial for Daniel, a garden in their backyard where Emily could remember her father surrounded by flowers and memories. Max would be there too, lying in the sun beside her as she tended the plants. The garden became a place of peace, a symbol of life continuing amid loss. Emily found comfort in planting seeds and watching them grow, much like the hope that had blossomed within her. One day, as Emily watered the newly planted flowers, she heard a soft bark behind her. Max stood watching, eyes full of affection. Emily knelt down, hugging him close. "We're in this together, Max," she said softly, "no matter what comes next." And with that promise, Emily stepped into the future, stronger, braver, and ready to face whatever life had in store, with Max by her side as her loyal guardian and friend. The years that followed were filled with quiet moments and small victories. Emily and Max had become a familiar sight in their town, walking to school, visiting the park, or attending community events. Their bond, forged in grief and hope, only grew stronger with time. Emily often thought about her father, feeling his presence in the gentle way Max would nuzzle her on difficult days or in the quiet moments they shared watching sunsets. She knew Daniel's spirit lived on in the dog she had fought so hard to bring home and in the resilience she had discovered within herself. High school arrived and Emily flourished. She joined the student council and started a program to educate others about service dogs and the sacrifices made by police officers and their canine partners. Max was her constant companion, a living reminder of why her work mattered. One spring afternoon, Emily stood before a crowd at a memorial dedication ceremony, held in honor of fallen officers in their county. She carried a photo of her father, standing tall and proud in his uniform, with Max at his side. Her voice steady and clear, Emily spoke about loss, love, and the unexpected ways healing can come. My dad wasn't just a police officer. He was a hero, a father, and a friend. Max wasn't just a dog. He was my dad's partner, his loyal companion. And now he's mine. The crowd listened intently, moved by the courage of the young woman who had transformed her pain into purpose. After the speech, several officers approached Emily, thanking her for sharing her story. One officer, now retired, handed her a folded flag, the kind that is given to families of fallen officers. "This is for your family," he said quietly, "for your dad and for everything you've done." Emily accepted the flag with tears in her eyes, feeling the weight of honor and responsibility. Max sat calmly at her feet, sensing the importance of the moment. Life wasn't always easy, but Emily had learned that love could overcome even the deepest sorrow. Through Max, she had found a way to keep her father's memory alive and to build a future filled with hope. Years later, when Emily was old enough, she became a volunteer with the police K-9 unit, helping to train and care for dogs like Max. She wanted to give back, to ensure that the bond between officers and their dogs continued to be honored and cherished. One evening, as she walked Max through the quiet streets of their neighborhood, she looked up at the stars twinkling above and whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for everything." Max rested his head against her leg, a silent promise of loyalty and love. Their story, a little girl's determination, a community's kindness, and the unbreakable bond between a father, his dog, and his daughter became a lasting legacy. A reminder that even in the face of loss, love can light the way forward. And so, Emily and Max moved through life together, forever connected by the past they shared and the future they would build, one paw step and heartbeat at a time.